Welcome in part 2 of the fractures in our economy. Last week, we covered the 13 reasons why our economy feels tight. What's going on there? Today, we're going to go through the 4 phases of the fallout. If what's happening continues, what will be the next steps? How can you see the writing on the wall? And how can you put yourself into a proper shelter? Financially, mentally, physically, we want to make sure that you're taken care of as best as possible. No courses, no coaching, nothing I can sell you on. I just want you prepared. With that being said, let's get into our beautiful Canva graphic. Our beautiful, beautiful Canva graphic. We are walking through today our economy's fallout and how to prepare the fractures. Quick touch on last episode if you missed it. Touched on the 5 fault lines. The 5 fault lines in our economy started with the dollar dilemma. The strength of the dollar is dying. It's had the worst opening year in its strength since 1973. The next we walked through was the wage crisis. We are going through a wage crisis, and especially young folk are hitting a wall when it comes to making money. The next we talked about was the shelter squeeze. Getting into a home is expensive. Next, we talked about the rate trap, the debate that's going on between Jerome Powell and the administration and the trap that they're in. And lastly, we talked about the debt spiral. How can you talk about the faults in our economy without talking about the debt? Within those 5, we outlined specifically 13 reasons why you might feel like this economy kind of stinks. We walked through all of these for an hour in our last episode. You can check that out, Spotify and YouTube. The wages, the rates, the job market, the money printer, the debt explosion, inflation, and of course, foreign buyer demand. Is that a dragon? There's a dragon in our economy. There are dragons invading Dave & Buster's. There are dragons invading the economy. We have a lot to get into. Today, we're going through the 4 phases of the fallout. Within the 4 phases of the fallout, we have outlined 3 specific items for each 4 of the phases that combine into the Doom Dozen. That was thunderclaps. The Doom Dozen is going to be where we are focused on today. And stay to the end, where we talk a little bit about what we're going to be going over next week. End of the week, the shelter, the 4 phases of the shelter. So let's start at the beginning of the fallout. We see Mr. Trump, we see Mrs. Bondi. Sean let me know that South Park has an episode with Miss Bondi with a little something brown on her nose. Can't really quite tell what it is, but we got that in there too. I think that's good. Very good. Very good. I don't have a Pam Bondi impression though, so I can't do that. Little weak there. Let's unveil the first phase of the fallout. Market misdirection. Market misdirection is something that is akin to gaslighting. I want to speed run through some articles real quick so we can get on the same page of where the consumer's at. Sean, do you want to go ahead and bring up the first one? So to get things started, we have inflation that continues to tick up. We have a significant group of Americans falling behind on their car payments, an economic warning sign. A quarter of the U.S. consumers are now financing their groceries on buy now, pay later services, maybe another economic warning sign. This is another one. Look at this. Average property insurance are up 52% on single-family homes since 2020. Nothing to worry about there. American housing market, I hate laughing at these because they're not funny. They're terrifying. The American housing market has gained $20,000,000,000,000. It's $20 trillion in 5 years. The housing market's gone up 52%. Ooh, I got to zoom in on that one a little bit for me. Going on that headline for me real quick. Perfect. Skills gap. It's a skill problem. It's a gamer chair problem. The job market for college grads hits a 5-year low. We're going to touch on that again here in a moment. Let's go on to the next one. We're also seeing soaring electricity bills, squeezing households as utilities seek higher prices. That's CBS News. And our last one, let's zoom in on this graph a little bit if we can. Oh, we can't. This is inflation versus wages. Inflation is outpacing wages. What does that tell you? Well, it means that even if you make more money, if you haven't made 26% more money over the last 4 or 5 years, you aren't actually making more money. That's what it means. Do we have one more article? Is that our last one? Beautiful. Beautiful. The consumer's struggling. We have high inflation. We have high rates. And we need to turn our attention to the master of all rates, the Federal Reserve. Now, the Federal Reserve's Fed rate doesn't exactly control mortgage rates for people like you and I. They do not. They control the overnight bank exchange rate. We don't have to get into that at the moment. All I need you to know is historically, the Fed rate, the 10-year Treasury yield, and the 30-year mortgage rate usually run in tandem with each other. That's what's typically happened. But as of right now, we see something different. Let's bring up the first Federal Reserve graph if we could. Now, this is our Fed rate. Do you notice anything interesting pre-2022-ish? It was on the ground. We actually, in April of 2020, dropped the Fed rate to 0%. Meaning, banks didn't have to pay any interest on money they were exchanging to one another. This opened up the credit markets and allowed for more debt to flow, more pre-approvals, more car loans. Go get some debt, everybody. You get some debt. You get some debt. Everybody gets debt. And this has created a world where now we're in a catch-22, where rates continue to stay high, inflation remains high for the consumer, and banks are getting a little bit stressed. Let's look at this next article, or should I say graph. Now, this graph can be a little confusing at first because we got 3 lines. Can we bring this up in full? Do we have a full screen? The graph we have right now is showing the 30-year mortgage rate, the 10-year Treasury bond, I think that's the green one, the little yellow dotted one, and the Fed rate. So we have the 30-year mortgage rate, the 10-year Treasury bond, and the Fed rate all in one graph. Now, if we don't highlight any of them. What do we notice when we zoom back and look at this graph? Don't look at the spikes of the Fed rate. That's actually a glitch, I think, in the Federal Reserve's website. They never spiked like that. What you'll notice is they move in tandem. As one moves up, the other two go up. As one goes down, the other two go down. These normally move in tandem. Usually move in tandem. What's happening right now is they're not. And that's what Mortgage News Daily has brought up about 30-year treasuries. And that's where we have our next article. The 30-year fix versus the 10-year treasury rate. This is an article or a graph that I need all of us to understand. Again, look at them moving in tandem. 10-year treasury bond, which is the 10-year debt that an investor can hold, foreign or domestic, retail or corporation, to hold a portion of our country's debt. That's what a bond is. Do we all know what a bond is? A bond is our debt packaged out for investors to reap rewards of our debt being given. When we need more debt, we create bonds so that we can pay off things, and we do that by giving investors a yield or a return on that investment. When the 10-year goes up, so does your 30-year mortgage. As we can see this, we have our 30-year mortgage and we have our 10-year treasury yield moving in tandem as they always do. But the thing about it is the Fed rate normally also moves in tandem with this. Let's go full screen. The difference between now and then, actually let's bring up the whiteboard. The difference between now and then is as we've begun to see the Fed rate go down, okay, I'm going to mark this in July of 25, we started to see the 10-year drop. Why did we start to see the 10-year treasury yield drop? Well, the Fed had come out and said, we're going to cut rates. We are looking this summer to cut rates. Move forward to now, September 25, and the rate had continued to drop. Once the Fed actually cut their rate by 0.25%, what happened to the 30-year rate, everybody? What happened to the 10-year treasury yield, everybody? It started to go back up. And then we have another cut, October 25, for another quarter. What happened to the rates? They're going up. The 10-year keeps going up even though we have had cuts. Strangely enough, if we look back at 2024, when we had our first cut in September, we had another cut in October, another one in December. What happened to the 30-year mortgage rate? They went up. Oh, lost a marker. We'll get it back. They went up. This is a signal, everybody, of bond investors not trusting the potential of inflation coming back into our economy. Bond investors hate inflation. So this is why our last article makes a lot of sense. This is from Barron's, I believe. Zoom in on that headline. We're not paying you money. Mortgage rates climb after the Fed rate cut. Here's why and what really matters for the home buyers. What really matters for the home buyers is lower mortgage rates and lower home costs. The problem is home prices probably aren't coming down and rates won't come down without money printing. And that's the first in our dirty dozen. Or I'm sorry, our doom dozen. Maybe we should have called it the dirty dozen. Same thing, starts with a D, big D. First in our dirty dozen of bad things, the doom of dozens. I completely forgot about that. Yep. So this is the battle that's going on right now with the great rate battle. And that is the first in our doom dozen, the rate battle that's currently going on. Let's move on to number 2. Let's reveal that one and let's get in some articles again together. Number 2's big issue, big reveal. The top gets heavier. Let's get into our first graphic. The top gets heavier as the wealthy, as the corporations, as the rich continue to gain more in assets, higher net worths. What is going on? The stock market goes up. As the stock market goes up, what happens to boomer net worth? Corporate net worth goes up. And so when we have the stock market going up, what do most people think of? They think the economy's doing well. Can I tell you something that I need you to internalize? The stock market is not the economy. 90% of stocks are owned by the top 10%. A majority of stock ownership is even held by the company itself. Publicly traded my butt. Most are privately being orchestrated for gains. We're seeing a more top-heavy environment in that stock market, though, as even though it's not our economy, it's an economic signal. This economic signal, I think, is one that needs to get talked about more. This is a graph that we got off of Reddit, I believe it was, the next one, that shows the S&P 490. What's the S&P 490? The S&P 490 are the 490 bottom companies in the S&P 500. If you're unaware, the S&P 500 is a culmination of the top 500 performing companies in our publicly traded stock exchange, the New York Stock Exchange. We might be getting a Dallas Stock Exchange soon. That was funded by BlackRock. Go figure. But in the red line, we see the top 10. What do you notice? As with many graphs, we get a K. We get one side that's benefiting greatly and another side that's just kind of getting by. Our stock market is overvalued. And the reason it's go back to that last one, because that's the last 5 years. So if we look at the last 5 years on this graph, because this is the last 80, you see that gigantic spike up. You see that hockey stick up. Now let's go back to the next graphic. That hockey stick is represented by simply the top 10% or the top 10 stocks. That's a top-heavy stock market that is ready to bust over. It's no secret that NVIDIA and all these other AI companies are just moving money around within themselves. It's no doubt that AI has been the number one investment vehicle for the stock market. Everything AI is what people want. And we're getting investments to the tunes of multiple billions and trillions even into AI. It is ballooning our stock market. It is ballooning the 10 companies at the top. Some say it's even 5 or 6 that are ballooning the entirety of the stock market. So when your boomer friend is like, the stocks are great, just invest, understand that the only way you can benefit off the long-standing stock market going up is by being invested into it before it goes up. I do not believe right now is the greatest time to invest in the top end of the stock market because we might be at the top side of the stock market. You know who else thinks this? A man by the name of Warren Buffett. He pronounces it Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett has an indicator, and I'd like to bring up that indicator for us real fast. It's a third article right there. Look at this indicator, guys. This is the Buffett indicator, or the buffet indicator. Shout out Golden Corral. We could scroll down, is a graph. And this graph takes into consideration the overvaluation of the stock market. In this graph, we can see the first spike there was 2008. The spike before that was the 2001 dot-com bubble. The spike at the very far right-hand side of the graph, that is right now. That is right now. The buffet indicator is at all-time highs, meaning that even one of the richest investors, most successful investors, who is holding more cash at this exact moment than he has ever held in a cash account, his own index is saying we may be overvalued. We may be leaning more toward a stock market topple because we have a heavy stock market. Let's move into number 3 of our Doom Dozen. Because with all of this being said, it would be one thing if we were getting told about the issues in our economy. If, while things are breaking underneath, if the story was matching that, that would be one thing. But in all actuality, we won't do whiteboard on this one. It's upbeat. The messaging is upbeat right now around the stock market, upbeat right now around prices. In fact, if you look left and right to the administration, they're going to tell you prices are down. So that's why the third Doom Dozen, the last in our misdirection phase, is gaslighting. Now, I have some videos as well as some tweets I want to read with you from our own president. And these tweets are about inflation, gaslight us around prices, and continue to idolize the stock market as some form of economic crown jewel, when truly it only benefits those that are invested into it, IRA, stock market accounts, retirement accounts having stocks. And of course, if you hold stocks, it's a benefit to you, but the large majority of our population does not. So it is not an economic signal. Let's read this first tweet. Oh, I can't even read that. Yeah, read it for me.
Prices are down, income is up, our border is closed, gasoline is cheap, inflation is dead, our country is booming, companies are pouring into America like never before.
Inflation is down. Inflation is dead. Inflation is dead. Prices are down. And this was a tweet that came out April of 2025. Do you think prices were down in April of 2025? Let's go more recent. Let's go to the September 8th tweet real quick. The September 8th tweet. It's the third one, yep. More recent. Let's see if the messaging has changed as things have shifted. This is from POTUS. Zoom in a little bit more. Holy cow. It says, just out, no inflation. Too late, Powell must lower the rate. Big. Right now. Powell is a total disaster who doesn't have a what president? A clue. President Donald J. Trump. He doesn't have a clue. We need to get rates down low, lower than the floor, lower than we've ever seen before. I don't believe that's true. But do you believe in September this year that inflation is down? I mean, just think about it. Right now, do you think inflation is down? When the BLS is putting out that inflation is actually at 3%, higher than it's been since January. I wouldn't think it is. Check another tweet. Throw another one in there. Oh, yeah, I loved this one. This one came out recently. Just out. Good news for the holiday season. Santa's coming to town. Early prices are down, while tariffs are making our country an economic superpower again. Also, virtually no inflation as stock markets are continually hitting record highs, the best of all worlds for the US of A. Eagle screech sound effect. This was literally 2 weeks ago. Like, Inflation's not gone. The stock market isn't an indicator of financial strength. The stock market is ballooned and gained value for many people that have been invested into it. But our own president going out and saying inflation is dead is gaslighting. It is gaslighting to the nth degree because you are convincing a people that things are good when they are not. You're convincing a people things are down in pricing when they're not. You are convincing an entire generation of young workers that they just need to work hard, pull up them bootstraps, stop being lazy. You lazy bum. When in all reality, things are much more expensive. The job market is not supplying wages that can supplement the cost of living increases in just the last 4.5 years. Income has remained the same since 2019. By the way, the Trump administration will talk about wages are up. Wages have just gotten past the 2018 level and now matching the 2019. So no, they're not up. They're up since you started a couple percentiles, but nowhere near what we need. Here's a recent interview where Donald Trump says that exact thing.
The 80th United Nations General Assembly began in New York today. President Trump gave a lengthy speech that covered domestic and foreign issues and did not hold back his complaints about the international body. Erica Brown has the latest developments from there.
In his address to the UN General Assembly Tuesday, President Trump declared the U.S. is in a golden age.
Under my leadership, energy costs are down, gasoline prices are down, grocery prices are down, mortgage rates are down, and inflation has been defeated.
He also dished out harsh criticism to the rest of the world.
Your countries are going to hell.
The president slammed migration and green energy policies, especially in Europe.
You're destroying your countries. They're being destroyed. Europe is in serious trouble.
During his nearly hour-long speech, President Trump said the United Nations was not living up to its potential and railed against its failure to end wars.
What is the purpose of the United Nations? For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war.
On the sidelines, Trump met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as the war with Russia rages on.
Ukraine, I tell you, they are good fighters. Got to hand it to them. They have a lot of courage, a lot of guts.
The president pressed others to stop buying Russian energy, which he says Russia uses to fund the fighting, and got backing from the president of the European Commission.
But we have to be faster because every payment is filling Putin's war chest. This cannot be.
When asked, President Trump also said NATO member countries should shoot down Russian aircraft that enter their airspace.
Let's go to the whiteboard. We mentioned inflation in that. We mentioned household costs. We mentioned power. Drew out a little thing for us real quick before we go to the household squeeze. I just want to bring up inflation's not down. You're being gaslit. Gas prices not down. Car prices not down. Home prices, food prices, every price is not down. So I'd say that we're being gaslit. And that is the first phase of the fallout. Misdirection. Misdirection. It's PR, guys. When somebody comes out and does something wrong at a company, you know what the company does? They hire a crisis manager. They hire a public relations expert to make it seem like it's not as bad as it is. That is their job. You remember Tiger Woods? Am I dating myself? You remember Tiger Woods when he had to come out and talk, oh yeah, I slept with women and it wasn't good. I should just be golfing. Like that was a PR move. Reason he was in like a sweater vest and a button up. We'd never seen Tiger in something like that. It was a PR move. Color choices, what's in the background, attire, wording. It's all predetermined and run through public relations companies. Boards reviewing these scripts, reviewing all of this is happening because it's making it seem like it's better than it is because we're trying to sweep it under the rug until things maybe get better. Let's move on to our doom dozen. We got the second phase of the fallout. So once we have market misdirection, which is what we're living through right now, and I'm presuming we're going to continue to see for the next 3, 6, 9 months, maybe 6 or 7 months, I'm not sure. The next phase that we get in this fallout is going to be, the boomers. What do the boomers want? They want homes. The household squeeze. The household squeeze, I'm going to bring you over to the whiteboard real fast, is happening in all houses across the US of A. So let's assume that this is you. All right, that is you right there. Remember that. You and your family get into a home. I'm going to assume you were able to get a mortgage. We're not even going to address the fact that the median mortgage is probably going to be in around $2,500. So $2,500 is out the door immediately, and about $1,900 of that is interest to the bank. We're not even going to touch that. Let's go into everything else that goes into a home. We were told power costs are down. In reality, power costs are up. The power to go into your home, the power that goes into your EV, the power that goes into your blender, the power that goes into your heater, all the power. It's more expensive. Batteries are becoming more expensive. AI data centers are being plugged in across the nation. Power's up. What about a grocery cart? This is my grocery cart. Let's assume that it's filled with lots of goodies, lots of food for the family. Looks like they're loaded up on blueberries right now, but just pretend it's a lot of food. Up. Some saying $400 has become their average grocery cart. Electric bills, some that were used to be like $80, now $200. So it's not just about costs going down, and they're not. It's also about this is only one of the major problems in buying a home. It's also the cost of the power for the home. It's the cost of the food that goes into the home. What about the car outside of the home? That's also up. The parts are up. Maintenance is up. And the purchase overall, all up. In fact, the median for a used car off the lot right now, that median mortgage or that median car payment, you want to take a guess at it real quick? What do you think the median car payment is for a used car? Think back when you got your very first car at a dealership, go to the back of the lot, pick the jalopy, pick the lemon, just something that's going to go, something I could put gas in. What was that payment for you? I bet you it wasn't $534 because that's today's median. Assuming you're financially savvy and know how to negotiate. Let's say you get 75% of that. Okay, $410 payment for one car. You have a family. That's one car. Then we have childcare. This is a picture of you waving goodbye to your child as he runs out of the house because he's going to childcare. He walks uphill both ways through snow, just like your parents. Childcare is up. Do we want to take a guess? And I'll give you a little bit of a hint. Childcare in 1993, which was one of the first years the BLS even started registering childcare because prior to then, it wasn't even a relevant expense. It was so low. If you had one child in childcare, it's going to be about $123 a month per child. Does anyone want to take a guess at what that is today? Ran out of time. It's $1,300. All right. So if the electric bill is going up, and we got a $200 electric bill, you got a $400 grocery cart, you're probably getting that every 2 weeks. That's already $1,000 right there. You got a $2,500 mortgage payment, $3,500. You got a $500 car. Let's assume you only have one for your family. And you got one child that needs to go childcare. Both of you have to have a job. Otherwise, how are you going to survive? No more dinks in this society. No more dual income in this society is going to get you by. Well, if we total it all together, $1,300, $534, that's $1,830, $2,200. Actually, then we got to double that, so $2,600. $28, we have $5,300 going out the door in baseline expenses, not counting health insurance, not counting taxes, not counting Social Security, not talking investing, not talking date night, not talking clothing, not talking anything outside of this core. You're $5,300 out the door, and that right there is the median income for most individuals in America. Right there. 60 grand is the median individual income, and that's more than 60 grand right there. Let's bring it back to the face cam. I don't exactly know how anybody is supposed to survive in a household that continues to get squeezed. In a household that continues to have expenses go up, home prices go up, interest rates stay high, inflation keep reaping, all while you're being gaslit and told that it's not happening. The household squeeze is going to continue, and it's going to be one of the major pieces in the inevitable fallout. Because when the real person in a normal home in America, not a shareholder, someone who has a share in the country, someone who's got a piece of the dirt, someone who's got 4 walls and a toilet and a bed and a kitchen, to be able to receive that is now a luxury. Those that have that luxury, that bought it before 2020, 2021, they got a $1,300 payment. The only number that changed for them is the median mortgage. That's the only number that's different. They're still paying childcare costs. They're still paying health insurance, power bills. People are getting kicked out of their homes. I'm seeing it. We're getting calls. About 90% of the listings that our team has taken in Southern Delaware over the last 7 months have been due to affordability in one way, shape, or form. Hear that. People selling their homes due to affordability issues. This is a crack. This is an issue. This is a huge part of it when you're talking about the home insurance cost, the property tax, they're all going up too. The household's getting squeezed. The normal everyday American's going to get squeezed. And we're going to go back here later on and talk more about how when consumer spending is cut off from the overall system, how the system cannot survive. But now we're going to move on to number 5. Or did we reveal number 4 for home pressure? I don't think we did. We went out of order. That's my fault. Number 4, no drama needed. The household squeeze. Number 5. Can we zoom in on the right-hand side of that real fast? I want to be very clear that we know what we're looking at. That's a hefty boy. That's a hefty boy right there. It seems almost like he's inflated. Money? Jerome Powell? Inflation strain. Okay. Now we're going to go through this real quick because we've already touched it. I don't want to go too much deeper. We don't have any articles. Inflation isn't going away. Inflation is not dead. Let's go to the whiteboard real quick. I just want to draw out how we even get inflation. So when we're looking at inflation, we're looking at a 1-year metric. I just want to show you how you're being gaslit. We're looking at a 1-year metric. Let's take a banana. I don't know why I picked an item I'm not sure I can draw. Okay. Yeah, it's a decent banana. Yeah, I should have had a yellow marker. Banana. Let's say the banana is $1 last year. This is what the BLS is doing to gauge inflation. When you hear inflation is 3%, 2%, 7%, 18%, what does that mean? What it means is they're taking about 20 to 30,000 different goods, like the banana, and seeing this time last year, what was the cost? Okay, it was $1. Then, now I got to draw another banana. This is a worse banana. Oh, Jesus, that was an awful banana. Now, the cost of a banana is $1.05. So what the BLS does is says, okay, the banana is up 5 cents. That is a 5% increase since 12 months ago. So we have a 5% inflation rate on bananas. Now, imagine that, but for all 30,000 items, products, goods, and services that the Federal Reserve and BLS are working together. The government is funding the BLS, which is why the government shutdown heavily affects the numbers that we're getting accurately and on time. That's going to be an issue as we're within this government shutdown, knowing true unemployment rate, knowing true inflation. This is happening, and then they're coming out with a report that says this is the inflation. But do you know what the problem with this is? The problem with this is if you look at, I should have never erased the banana. Shoot! If you look at the banana, we'll assume this is the banana, you may see 5% inflation. And a boomer is going to tell you, 5%, whatever. The problem is, since 2020, we've seen what's called cumulative inflation. It means it builds on itself. It's like compound investing, except bad. That $1 banana, let's say now it's $1.45. Every year it went up, small percentage increase. Little by little by little by little. Just little up, little up, little up, little up, little up. But if we were to look back at the full cumulative inflation from the whole entire thing, well, now look at this banana. I'm not saying this is banana prices. I don't think bananas are $1. That's a pretty expensive banana. The cumulative inflation is what you are not told. You will not see a Fox News or CNN headline that talks about cumulative inflation, which, by the way, can I look you in the eye and tell you where else you're being gaslit? They say inflation since 2020 is 32% cumulatively. What do you think about that number? When I say 32%, something that was $10 is now $13.20. What do you think about that? When I see that, and I think about utility bills, home prices. I mean, home prices are up 57% right there. We have utility bills that were $80 now, $200. That's more than 100% increase. And I used to be able to fill a grocery cart for $120. It's $380 now. Bless you, Joe. Bless you twice. So inflation's being underreported. You're being gaslit. And it's going to continue going up. And this is why it's part of the fallout phases, guys, because it's not going away. Can I tell you right now, the only way deflation happens is in recessions and depressions, when unemployment rates start skyrocketing, when consumer spend starts dwindling. It's not something the middle class wants to be a part of. And the inflation strain is slowly and possibly purposefully ripping the working class out. Can I talk about right now what's going on? A little off script. Government shutdown. We are nearing the all-time record. Shout out ESPN. They should do an article on the all-time record. We're the goats of government shutdown. We're going to hit 40, 50 days, maybe 6. I don't know. But it looks like it's going to pass the record of 38 days. People are going without food. Even if you believe that 20, 30, 40% of the people on that are fraudulent, they're illegal. They should not be getting food. They should not be getting funding. They should not be getting benefits, whatever. I don't agree with that. And there's no article that you could show me that proves that. But even if you believe that, that means 60, 70, or 80% of people are hardworking individuals that need the supplementation to survive, and we're cutting it off from them. What do you think that they're going to do? Outside of commit crime and try to find money. What are the other solutions? We have banks that aren't getting funding. We have state level, county level, city level entities not receiving funding. Broadcasting, media, not receiving funding. This is continuing to put a strain on who? The billionaires? Think the billionaires are stressed out? Think the billionaires are getting together? Guys, we got to get this government back open. I'm really stressed out about this. This is bad for the people. We need to put the people first. We need to get this economy back and up and running. You think they're having those conversations? I don't think they are. In fact, what I see are 13 different times where the Republicans have brought forth a claim of, we want this. Democrats say this is the same thing you said the first time, so no. And there's no negotiating happening. There's no conversating happening. There's no adult communication happening between the people that we elected to lead our country and our economy. And that is leading us into a continued fallout through gaslighting us around our economy and what's important and what's not, all while the economy struggles. So it makes me believe, it makes me think, is there something more important that maybe this government shutdown is hiding? Epstein, that maybe is more important? Did I say Epstein too fast? YouTube just flagged us. Let's move on to number 6. We're halfway through. Stick around for the end where we talk about the shelter, how to protect yourself. We're going to tease that a little bit. Number 6. Let's look at these graphics. Who's that at the top? Is that Kevin O'Leary? Is that the famous Shark Tank executive, Kevin O'Leary? It kind of looks just like him. Should strike a royalty deal. What's number 6? Finalizing phase 2 of the fallout. Jobs. How could jobs have to do with this? Let's get a first glance from USA Today on what might be hurting the job market just an ounce. Let's zoom in on that. What's hurting the job market just a little bit? Is AI coming for your job? Maybe. Let's see what industry experts have to say. Let's scroll down real quick. Here's an article from the Klarna CEO, a quote from the Klarna CEO. And I got it here too, so we'll find it. There we go. Beautiful. Zoom in just ever so slightly. It says the Klarna CEO, Sebastian, oh God, Siemiatkowski, C-May, we're just going to call him C-Man. C-Man in May tells CNBC, this is back in May, early this year, not now, Swedish fintech company reduced its workforce by 40%. 40%. That's what he told to the Ford CEO, Jim Farley, in June, saying that AI, catch the quote, AI will replace literally half of all white-collar workers in the United States. AI is making its mark on the United States workforce. Let's go to the whiteboard real quick. So when we see jobs are being affected by AI, and let's not even just say AI, let's also say costs are up for business, so they're not able to pay as much. Say costs are up, obviously, we've already gone through that. Costs are up, so they can't pay as much payroll. AI, automation, it's making it easier to not need that front-level white-collar worker. When we're talking about marketing, we're talking about legal, we're talking about design, we're talking about coding, we're talking about anything with a computer or a device or internet, not working with your hands. Jobs are coming for the white-collar economy. What happens when that happens? Let's just walk through it. I'm going to draw three little arrows for subjects on how this is leading to the fallout. Follow me here. This is the baseline of it. When we look at the Great Depression, when we look at 2008, we see this happening. Jobs get cut. Layoffs, automation, whatever you want to call it, jobs get cut, unemployment goes up. When jobs get cut, what happens? When jobs get cut, income goes down because less people are making money. And because jobs are being cut, there's less incentive for a company to offer more for that job to be filled. Why? Because there's a higher supply of workers that just need something. Catch that. When there's a higher supply of people that just need something because they've been fired, the next job they go to, if they can find one, there's no pressure on that company to offer a higher salary. They don't have to be as competitive because they have a higher supply of needed worker. They need income, but the income's going down. When the income goes down, what also goes down? Consumer spend, and there's two on this one. Ready? Consumer spend and debt payment. When the working class family loses their income, what are the first two things they are going to do? A, they're going to spend less. They have less money. That's just math. What also happens is they're not going to pay on their debts on time. That mortgage payment, that car payment, that credit card payment, that rent, they're not going to pay it on time. And when they're not paying these things on time, who gets the brunt end of that stick? When we're not paying anything into our debt, when we're missing payments, when consumer spends down, who gets strained? Corps and banks. If you're unaware, banks make money on interest. That's how they make money. That's how banks operate. They're not collecting interest on debt that they originate or holding debt. They're not making money. And so when the consumer loses a job and they have less money and they're spending less of it, missing payments, these corporations that are funding the financing are funding the corporation stores that they need people going in and shopping in. I need you to get the new thing. I need you to get more merchandise. Buy. When there's less people to do it, banks get strained because they're not making interest. And that's why we see what's happening in the standing repo facility with the Fed. That's why we see them trying to get quick cash because they're not getting it from us. I hope that makes sense. Let's continue on. That is number 7 in our Doom Dozen. Did we release that off the Doom Dozen? I think we did. Oh, let's go do it then. My apologies. I'm all out of whack. Number 7, we got to look at our beautiful graphics. Work really hard on these. Man with a computer. Stock market. Number 7. Wait, I'm confused. What do we miss? Oh, I'm confused. That was number 6. That's where I was confused. Number 7, all jacked up. We're live television. The stock market topples over. Let's go over to our phases of the fallout because this is the beginning of phase 3. I want to be very specific about how this works. Phase 1 is where we're actively living. Last episode, we walked through all the way up to now. What's happening all the way up till now? What's the reality of where we are at economically? Where we're at now and will continue to stay in is a state of market misdirection. The next phase is we see a continued household squeeze. The normal everyday American getting pushed out of their home, getting pushed out of their jobs, and getting pushed out of their money. The third phase is when things start to turn. We see a creeper sitting there. What do we know about a creeper? They light up a few times. If you get too close, they give you a little warning. But you know the boom's coming. You got to get out of the way of the boom. They're going to wreck your base. You just built this wood structure. Like, they're going to ruin your well. I got a zombie farm. You can't blow it up. So what's phase 3 of the fallout? Phase 3 of the fallout is the system snaps. The system snaps. We saw this in 2008 with the crash of Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns. We walked through what Bear Stearns' crash was like on our last episode. We also saw a bank crash happen before the Great Depression. We typically see a system snap in the form of one of 3 items. We're going to walk through those 3 items because I think they're easy to understand and easy to see coming, to be frank with you. This is probably the easiest to understand that one of these 3 things are going to happen, and it's going to happen quickly. I'm not going to say it's going to happen in the next week. I'm not saying it's even going to happen in the next 3-4 months. But when it happens, it will happen quickly. The system snaps, and then we rush to fix it. So the next 6 that we're walking through are going to be what is coming. The system snapping is going to be the first. Let's go into this first article by The Guardian. We mentioned NVIDIA earlier. AI. AI is what, is that the headline? Oh, can you zoom in ever so slightly or no? Oh, man. NVIDIA becomes world's first $5 trillion company amid stock market and AI boom. Can we get a quick chat clap? Shout out NVIDIA. $5 trillion. Huge number. 13 digits. Big ups to them. Wow. I'm proud of them, to be honest with you. $5 trillion valuation amid stock market and AI boom. Kind of sounds earlier like we talked about with the stock market being ready to topple over. Let's go into our next article from Market Watch. Found this interesting. No way we got to pay for this one. I'm going to start paying everybody just so we can get all these articles up immediately. This is on me. I'm cheap. This is an opinion from Market Watch. It says the AI boom is over. Here's your bubble survival guide. It's an interesting thing for a well-respected financial outlet to say because the stock market's doing great. It's record highs. Remember what our president said? It's time to invest. What does Ray Dalio say? If you don't know Ray Dalio, you're going to become friendly with him because at the end of this episode, we're going to watch a video by his. It's 5 minutes long, and I swear it's going to shift you. Ray Dalio says a risky AI market bubble is forming, but may not pop until the Fed tightens. May not pop until the Fed tightens. What does that mean? It means when they stop lowering rates, start bringing them up higher again. Now, why would they do that? Well, it goes back to our rate battle. If they want inflation to come down, they have to raise rates. Inflation is still here. Inflation is not dead. But in order for the job market to get stronger, they have to cut rates. But if they cut rates, inflation goes up. So what are they going to do? More than likely, we're just going to walk into stagflation. I want to pull up this Google image. Last one. This is Donald Trump. Says, Sean, real quick, you got a mic in front of you, don't you? Don't you have a mic? Plug that baby in a reader for us.
Yes.
Get that baby running.
All right.
Yeah.
Tech stocks, industrial stocks, and NASDAQ hit all-time record highs. Crypto through the roof. NVIDIA is up 47% since Trump tariffs. USA is taking in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. Country is now back. A great credit. Fed should rapidly lower rate to reflect this strength. USA should be at the top of the list. No inflation. Sorry, I had a stroke reading.
No, it's good. I love strokes. I'm a big golfer. Strokes are my favorite. So NVIDIA, 6 other major companies, they're investing so far into AI that even leading economists like Ray Dalio and others think we're walking into an AI bubble. But meanwhile, the GOP and the administration continue to say, invest, invest, invest. Everything is great. Everything is good. Does it kind of a little bit sounds like gaslighting? Sounds like misdirection? Sounds like don't look here while the magician puts this in his pocket? Doesn't it seem a little like that? I do. And I think that that's why the stock market, specifically the AI sector, specifically the top side of the stock market, is doomed to pop. And that pop will be detrimental to retirement accounts, IRAs, 401ks. It will bleed into crypto. It'll bleed into all sectors, because when the stock market falls, guess what else falls? Pretty much every other market. This is an overvalued asset. It's a class that's held by the top 10% in boomers. And if it cracks, understand this. One of the 4 phases of the fallout, because we're going to walk through the reflex of what happens. The fourth phase of the fallout will happen immediately. The 4th phase of the fallout, if the stock market were to topple, will happen immediately. Let's go back to our doom dozen. If the stock market topples, we are absolutely going to reflex fast. We'll go over what that means in the 4th phase. The next possible crack that we could see in phase 3, because these 3 could all individually happen. Don't believe all 3 happen, though they could. That'd be pretty detrimental. What do we got going on here? We got a bank that looks like it's falling apart. Lady with no money. That guy looks frightened. What's he frightened about, Sean? What's he scared of? What's he scared of at number 8? Let's see. Oh, the very thing that spurred on the Great Depression and the 2008 Great Financial Crisis. A bank failure. No, not a bank failure. No. It's probably what he sounds like. Banks are like plumbing. And if one of their pipes were to burst, the whole house is going to flood. They are the plumbing of our system. They are monitoring the money, the water that is flowing throughout it. Too much, not enough. And what bank failure means is you could receive a domino effect. Before we walk into these articles, should I do the whiteboard first? I'm going to do the whiteboard second. I got a good graphic for us. Let's walk through some of these articles. First one's from Investopedia. I don't want you to just rely on my information. What does that say? A liquidity crisis. This is Investopedia. They love their investors. They love their boomers. They love the macro corporate viewer. A liquidity crisis, a lack of short-term cash flow. This is in reference to banks right now, that they are low on cash. Let's look at this Princeton University study real fast. I think this is interesting. We're not going to read through all of that. I just want to read the headline. Let's zoom in. Deciphering the liquidity and credit crunch of what year? Oh, 2007, 2008. They went through a liquidity crisis. You know what also happened before the Great Depression? A liquidity crisis. This is when banks are running out of money. This is also when we talked about last episode, when we go over the SOFR accounts, when we go over the standing repo facility, which we're going to bring up in a moment to show you what those repo rates mean and what a repo crisis even means. My boy Robert's going to do that for us. It means banks are tight. It means banks are running out of funds, and it's only a matter of time till one of them, it only takes one of them to get to the point where somebody comes in to say, I need to withdraw my money, and they say, we don't have it. Then what happens? Then you get to call what gets called a bank run. Everybody runs to get their money out of the bank. Then when they run to get their money out of the bank and the bank doesn't have the money, the bank has to announce they don't have money publicly, and that is what's called a bank failure. They have gone solvent. Now, what do you think the reverberating effects of that are? Let's run that through real quick. When Bear Stearns collapsed, one of the largest financial entities that existed pre-2008, one of the big 10 banks, failed. Let's imagine, what if Wells Fargo failed tomorrow? If Wells Fargo said we couldn't pay people back, what do you think that all the people that bank with Bank of America are going to do? That bank with JP Morgan? Unions? What do you think they're going to do? It's called a bank run. And when people fear bank failure, they run to the bank to get their money. The Great Depression started with one bank failure out of New York. It led to over 500. 500 banks plus. Some report it was in the thousands. It's very difficult to get the actual number. But more than 2 is insane. 500? That's why people were walking around in barrels and using seashells as money. That's a real story. So when we know that bank failure is one of the leading indicators of a crack that could lead to a depression, and we also know that we're going through a liquidity crisis, and we know that a liquidity crisis is a front leading indicator of a bank failure, let me ask you this. How close are we to a bank failure? A great follow is Infranomics. I want to watch this, the beginning of his YouTube video real fast. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but I need you to understand, and I want you to go watch this video too. And we're going to put it on screen. I want you to go watch this video if you feel like you are one of the people that doesn't understand what's going on but wants to understand what's going on, all right? Let's watch this video real quick. A lot of graph, a lot of number. Let's do it.
5-year high, now at the highest level since March of 2020.
Can we up all the way to the beginning?
The financial system is cracking, and it's getting even worse. SOFR spreads just hit a record 5-year high, now at the highest level since March of 2020 when the basis trade imploded. And banks are rushing back to the Fed's emergency liquidity backstop yet again, this time for the highest non-quarter end use in over 5 years. Could this unwind the massive $1.2 trillion basis trade? And if so, what might it look like? So SOFR came in for yesterday. It is getting even worse. As we can see, SOFR is now 31 basis points above the reverse repo award rate. And again, not only that, but the Fed funds, the unsecured side, has been moving higher as well, despite the fact the Fed has actually been cutting interest rates last month. And of course, again, today, the Fed is expected to cut interest rates. We actually have a 4 basis point increase in the Fed funds. So remember, the Fed funds, much smaller overnight market, that is unsecured. SOFR is secured, much larger, about $3 trillion per day. So we were at a yellow light. We've been warning about this coming for 2 or 3 months. We were at a yellow light, and then the past couple weeks, you could argue it was an orange light. We are starting to become at a red light. And I'm not the only one that is saying that. Here are a number of other folks that are claiming that this is starting to become a real crisis. So,
all right, again, I want you to go watch that full video so you can see the breakdown. But for those of you that, still getting into the economic know-how and lingo, I get it, been there. It's a little complex, so we're not going to watch it all the way through. We're going to tag that video below. Go follow Robert at Infranomics. But a credit crack is what's going on. I want to go to the whiteboard real fast because, and Sean, as I'm doing this, I would love for you to look up the SFR Federal Reserve account. So this blue line that I'm drawing, I want it to start in 2021. This is an account that was created as a bank account of last resort where if banks are low on cash, they can go to this account run by the Federal Reserve and say, hey, we need money. Give me cash, baby. All I got are these assets like bonds and securities. I can't make money with bonds and securities. These are assets. I can't lend them out to people that need cash now. So what they set up this account for was a backstop. If the bank was running low on money to give to its people, it could go to this account and it could sell its bonds in exchange for money. That's how they do it. They need money. They give assets. They trade them out for money. They're able to lend them back. And this account, which I'll show you the graph for in a second, but I'm going to do my best to show you what the graph looks like on this page, or on this, this isn't a page. It's a piece of glass. Why did I say that? 2021 was when they started this account, post-COVID, post-repo crisis that happened in 2019. Moving forward from there, We have October. Now I'm going to put a little tiny line right here. Little tiny line on the whiteboard right here. Now, could you show the whiteboard real quick? So on this tiny little line, we had about $10 billion that was liquidated out of this fund, presumably to go to banks that were trading off their assets in exchange for quick cash. Now, what also happened before October? We had a government shutdown. Somewhere right like here, government shutdown. You may be wondering what happened here. I'm going to get to that. The next day, saw about $5 billion go out in this account. October 31st, we saw $50 billion go out of this account. Then we saw about another 12. November 3rd, we saw another 24. And as I've read from this morning, I'm not even caught up. As of last night, another 23 billion moving out of this account. Guys, we're coming up on $200 billion that has been taken out of this account to go to banks that need quick cash. Does that say liquidity crisis to you, or does that say liquidity crisis to you? Now, let's go back to the rest of this graph. I'm going to bring up the real graph in a moment, but how has this account been utilized between 2021 and October? I believe there was one tiny one right here. That's it. I've drawn the graph. The account has not been utilized because we have had so much money that we don't need to. But as money's beginning to tighten, we see banks are starting to need liquidity. Liquidity was up because we QE'd and, of course, we stimmied. We had a stimulus package, multiple. So money was flowing. Once all that partying ended and prices started to go up and the consumer started getting crunched, we see the money started to liquidate out of the system, leading to the need for the Federal Reserve at this SFR Federal Reserve account. You can Google Federal Reserve SFR account, and that will bring up for you, if you want to look at this very graph I'm showing. Sean, do you have that graph? Think so? Let's bring it up. We'll see. Yeah, there we go. Look at it. Look how beautiful it is. Look at it. Look at them big sticks on the right. The party's on the right. Am I right? Am I right? Look at that. This is showcasing liquidity problems in the plumbing of our system. I don't know what other puzzle pieces we need to put together. We know what causes crashes. We know what leads to them. And we have it in front of us. Why is nobody talking about this? Nobody is talking about the SFR account. Frankly, because I don't know if Fox Business knows what the SFR account is. We have people yelling, lower the rate! 1% now! Do you know what that would do to inflation? Are you stupid? Do you understand what would actually happen to your cost of living if they were to drop the rate to 1%, 2%? You'll get a bunch of boomers out, I need to be able to get a mortgage rate. Okay. You're not going to be able to afford anything in the home. Your son, your grandchild, your daughter, your granddaughter is not going to be able to afford to live. So what are we talking about? Depths of despair at all-time high. Depression is becoming a normal thing. We have politics creating hatred and division and distraction after misdirection to the point where the government said, we're just going to go home for now. This has been a lot. Oh, the economy's faltering. And the administration will say it's not. I call BS. BS. Lots of it. Let's put it in the ballroom. Let's go to our doomsday tracker, a little doom clock, doom dozen. For number 9. What is that, a boomer hitting some dominoes, leading to another boomer with a bomb? Something the boomers are doing that are going to affect them? Huh. A crack? What kind of crack? We talking CIA crack? What are we talking about? Let's see. Oh, a credit crack. Quick story. Remember 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010? What were you, a child? Were you a baby? Were you born? Recently saw someone the other day that was born in 2010 driving. That was a little scary. Had like a learner's permit for like 15 and a half. It said 2010. I didn't think that was legal. A credit crunch is when a bank is in a catch-22, right? If we go through a liquidity crisis and there are bank failures, what's going to happen between the intertrust relationships between banks? It's going to start getting a little tedious, they're traipsing on eggshells around each other. Because if one bank fails, that's a sign that all of the banks have issues. And if all of the banks are telling each other, no, we're good, we're fine, we got money, what are you talking about? We're a bank, we got money, we got a vault of money, lots of it, gold even. What are you talking about? They start to not trust one another. And the inter-exchange rate starts to slow. The velocity of the dollar flying slows. Then what happens? Well, rates usually start going up. Why? Because bond market typically weakens. Why? Because the economy is struggling. Okay? Then what happens? Well, if rates are high, consumers are struggling. Let's pick 2008, they couldn't pay their mortgage, having to sell, unemployed. What happened? Banks stopped giving loans. Do you know this? For about a year and a half, there were several large institutions that got out of the mortgage game, that temporarily stopped giving out pre-approvals and mortgages. Why? Because A, no one was getting them. No one could actually afford the payments. And B, they were low on money. They couldn't even issue the loans out. There was a credit crunch that froze the markets. There was no debt being allocated. This is why we printed money. This is why we QE'd. This is why we bailed out the banks while families got foreclosures, because the system was beginning to topple. The system was cracking. We did what we had to do to kick the can down the road to have a less recession than we should have in 2008. I firmly believe that. That recession should have been a lot worse. The free market demanded it. But we said, screw the free market. And instead, our Federal Reserve started buying up bonds, buying up assets, holding them off market, supplementing false demand, artificial demand to keep the markets moving. And we did not see the full repercussions for our actions. So let's go into our first article by Business Insider. Jamie Dimon, Paradise Paper Epstein. When you see one cockroach, there's probably more. Jamie Dimon warns of more credit trouble ahead. What did we just say with intertrust relationships with banks when one bank fails? They stop trusting one another. When there's a cockroach in the kitchen, there's probably multiple. And when the stove gets moved for that bi-yearly spring cleaning, and you see the 86 roaches and the black mold that's been behind your burger flipping machine, you're going to have to clean it. You might have to shut down the restaurant for a bit. You might get sued. You might have the health inspector come in and say, we got to shut this place down. When there's one cockroach in the kitchen, there's multiple. And when we see one bank that's struggling, there are more. When you're struggling with something in life, let me just point you out. When you're struggling with something in life, a vice, say you love crack, do you go post about it? At your family get-together, you're like, I got to get, why? I got to go do crack. Do you do that? Or do you kind of keep it internal? No one needs to know about that. No one needs to know about my vices. Women, drugs, pornography, like whatever. Like you don't talk about it. You don't talk about the vices in your life. You don't talk about those things internal in your life. Banks do not publicize the issues that they have. Banks do not publicize the issues that they have. You know what they do? They create shell companies out of Bermuda and hide their funds there. Liquid Funding Limited. They buy the bonds with a Bermuda company instead when the foreign companies aren't buying our debt. You can look that up. That's real. We're seeing the credit crack begin. Let's look at this next article. This is from the Investor Observer. Absolutely for the boomer. The next credit crack may be brewing. Also, Eagle Bancorp sounds like the evil corporation in a movie. That it's a, oh, that's Eagle Bancorp. They're obviously patriotic. They're the evil guys. Last article. The consumer debt bubble is about to burst. It's happening real time as we sit, and I want to prepare you for it. Hence the whole part 3 of this that we'll be posting on Friday, live here on TikTok. If you want to watch live, Friday, 11 a.m. on TikTok, the shelter that we're going to place you in financially and mentally for what is happening right in front of our faces. I will not ignore this. I will not pull aside my own need for a commission-driven business to tell people it's a good time to buy a home. I'm not going to sit here and tell you everything's honky-dory until it's not. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I even have all the answers. I don't. I'm speculating, theorizing. My hypothesis, though, is that we're seeing the same exact steps that led up to prior cracks in the system, and seeing as there's trillions of dollars more in our system, there's quadrillions more in our derivatives market, and our credit market is obnoxiously inflated, that it's going to be a worse one. That's why we have the entire shelter part of this series. So I want you to understand what we're talking about here is what's going to happen, and it may sound drastic, it may sound dark, but there are ways to protect yourself. I'm not getting into that today, but I want to be clear. There are ways to protect yourself. Let's move on to the next part of our Doom Dozen. Oh, we got to reveal the last. Did we reveal the last one? We revealed the last one. So the last 3 sections of our Doom Dozen, I want to be clear about what this is. So you can go back to the 4 phase. That's fine. I want to be very clear about what these last 3 are. This is what will happen next after one, if not multiple, of the items that I just listed before this happens. If we see the stock market topple, if we see a bank crack, if we see a credit crunch, 2008, 1930 style, we are going to see the next phase of the fallout begin to unfold. What is it? The reset reflex. We follow the same pattern every time. The problem is this time's a little different. In the past, when we've had issues, we've always been able to back up our facts with, things can be bad. Free markets move. Recessions happen. We're the world reserve currency, and everyone loves us. No one hates America. We're the number 1 superpower. We're an economic megapower. We're the superhero security guard for the entire country, or for the entire world. We love Israel. They're our greatest ally. We have all these great things. So even if we have a recession, who cares? It's all right. We'll survive. I think this time's different. The reason I think this time's different is because I do believe that we pushed the can down the road since 2008. What if I told you that that was supposed to be a lot worse? And what if I told you that we've been kicking that can down the road to now we have to face a monster I don't believe that we have the weaponry to fight? And that quite possibly, someone else might have to step in to fight that fight for us. Let's walk into the next 3 of our Doom Dozen. Let's finalize this last quartile of 3 items. I don't even know what quartile means. What's that first one? What's number 10? Is that Oprah? What's Oprah up to? You get some debt. You get some debt. You get some debt. Woo! I wonder how many times she actually did that. Or did she do that all the time, you think? I don't even know. Or did she do that once or twice and everyone just picked it up? Is that Snoop Dogg? What's Snoop Dogg saying? What's he say? Drop it like it's hot. Interesting hints. What's number 10? Dun, 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 dun. Rates drop. This is going to be a quick one. Real quick one. Let's go into this first article. Because when the system breaks, the central bank reflex begins its process. It is going to drop rates, print, and repeat. I want to start with this video from Mr. Donald Trump. We'll get this up on the screen real fast so you can see it as well. I want us to watch. How long is this video, Sean? 3 minutes. I think we'll only watch about 1.5 minutes of it. This is a reporter's question around rates and Jerome Powell, and I want you to see what his take on Jerome Powell and rates are right now.
The only thing is we have a Fed chairman that is, he doesn't get it. And you could have substantially low. Like if we cut.
Step down.
Well, I don't have a comment. I'd love him to resign if he wanted to. He's done a lousy job. Look, if you were there, you'd say, well, you know, the United States is doing well. They have no inflation. And if they do get inflation in a year or two, we'll start raising the rates. We'll get rid of the inflation, you know, and do other things. Biden had the worst inflation in the history of our country. 19%, but I think it was much higher than that. Frankly, they say 19%. I say I think it's a lot higher than that. And we have almost no inflation now. We've done a great job in a short period of time. Energy prices are way down. Gasoline now is down to close to $2 in a lot of places. A couple of places I see it even broke. It's like $1.98 a gallon. We've done a great job on inflation and honestly, pretty much everything else. I think it's very sad the way people act. You know, you have a guy in there that with the stroke of a pen could lower interest rates and save us hundreds of billions of dollars a year. But he's a stupid person. You know, it's very interesting. I'm not sure if he doesn't understand it, because you should be able to understand it. It's sort of 101 economics, but
let's do that then. I want you to understand it. If Jerome Powell doesn't understand it, our central bank chairman, I want you to understand it. Could we go to the money printing graph on Canva very fast? I want us to showcase one thing, and this is another Canva we did on the Federal Reserve's big decision. I believe that was episode 34 if you want to check it out. Just go up to that money printing in the top left-hand corner. But where I want to start, actually, we're going to shift off of this to the whiteboard real fast, but we're going to come right back to this. So I want you to understand the economy, seeing as Donald Trump does and the Federal Reserve doesn't. What Donald Trump is suggesting is that jobs are doing great, the stock market's doing great, the economy is on fire. We need to cut rates. We need to cut rates. When we have a good economy, do we drop rates or do we raise rates? I want you to just think about this. It's not a super tough question. We already talked about what happened post-COVID, that when rates dropped, it was in response to recession. So do we lower rates when things are good? No, we don't. See, what we actually do is when the market is a frown, typically, rates go down, creates more credit, opens up liquidity, create more debt. But when the market's on fire, rates go higher. Why? Because we need to curtail the fire a little bit. We need to control the height of it, as Bibi Netanyahu would say. We need to control the height of the flame, right? That's what we do with rates. Now, if the job market's great and the economy's great, stock market's awesome, everything's all-time highs, we should be raising the rates. We should be raising the rates. I'd also like to point out in that clip, I didn't even catch that the first time. He even said he thinks the inflation numbers are underreported. He said that. He said, I think the numbers are underreported at 19, might have been higher. Do you know the same exact entity is still tracking the inflation numbers? The entity hasn't changed. It's not the administration's job to track that. So if you're suggesting it was underreported then, I'm going to say it's probably still underreported now. Just pointing that out. When the market's a frown, rates go down. Think 2008. Think 2020. When the market's on fire, rates go higher. We need to curtail the flame a little bit. We can't run it too hot too long. It's a little bit like what happened from 2020 to 2023 is we let it run too hot too long. The problem with lowering the rate now is what we've already talked about. We covered in the great rate debate. It was the first doom dozen because it's so important. The Federal Reserve cannot fix this problem. The Federal Reserve does not have enough tools at its disposal to fix the wage crisis, to fix the job market right now, because AI and automation is coming for it, not just rates. Overall increases in all items that they buy, all services, goods being up, food, health insurance, homes and cars all being up. That's the main problem. Rates aren't even the problem for housing that much. Yes, I understand if 2% drops in interest rates came into fruition for the mortgage world, it would be helpful. But you're still financing a home that was $250K and now it's $420. Was $500,000, now it's $810. How's the Federal Reserve supposed to fix that problem? But apparently Jerome Powell's stupid. He's too late. He's a moron. He's a dummy. Also, can I just say, I hate the name calling. I think in any argument, not just the administration, if I'm talking with somebody and they get into name calling, not even toward me, like they're name calling somebody else, it immediately, and maybe this is a fault of mine, I should strive for more understanding. A fault of mine is I immediately discredit a lot of your opinion. Honestly, I discredit a lot of what you're saying if you're coming at it from a perspective of being aggressive in the form of, oh, that person's a big fat dummy, that's why. No, well, okay. Why do you think they're a big fat dummy? Oh, you got an article, you got to shut up. Like it's usually where a lot of these conversations go. I think it's kind of showing a mirror to how maybe they view themselves. They're just an angry person. They're trying to point blame some other direction. I think that we could come at it from a position of, especially our leaders, not subtweeting each other. You know, our leaders not name calling each other. We're seeing it right now. Republican shut down, Democrat shut down, red fault, blue fault. Hey guys, could we talk? Could we get in a room and communicate like adults? You're all being paid to do a job you seemingly aren't doing. Both calling the other one on their bluff, but neither one of you are meeting to actually do anything. The communication in our government is, I hate it. I hate it. It's awful. Even to the Federal Reserve only coming out and talking to us every month to tell us what the job market and inflation is doing and what they're going to do about it. The communication is dreadful. But the point of it being is rates are going to drop. Rates are going to drop. Let's go back to that money printing graph. I want to be very clear. We're going to come back to this again on number 11. But let's look at rate drops. I want us to look at, there's another graph. Can you zoom out real fast? We're going to hit that in number 2. Go down. Perfect. That one. Yep. So when we cut rates, it has led to the bond market going up. If you see the first yellow lines, let's zoom all the way in on those yellow lines. That was the first rate cut we had last year. The blue line is the 30-year mortgage rate. What happened to the 30-year mortgage rate the moment we cut? Bond market went up. What happened when we did our second cut in October, that second yellow line? Rates went up. And then from there, we started to see a little bit of a curtailment. They're like, oh, they're going to cut again. Yay. And then they cut it. And what happened to the 30-year mortgage rate? It went up to the point where the end rate in this year of January was actually higher, if you follow that red line, than when the announcement came out from the Fed that they were going to think about rate cuts. Can you believe that? And this means in English that banks are getting a lower rate to exchange money with each other while we get higher retail rates. At least the banks are saving money, right? At least the banks are saving money. But the Fed's response to a poor market is to cut rates significantly. But what we're seeing is the market's not responding well to it. So if we started to see a crack, a bank failure, a stock market toppling, what do you think is going to happen to that bond? If the bond goes up when we are struggling, if the bond market continues to get weaker, buyers of our debt continue to not show up to the auctions, the more our dollar weakens, our debt grows, our deficit becomes a bigger problem. What happens? What happens? Bonds get weaker, which means they go up in price. That means the yield's going up. Why is the yield going up? Real plain English. If you're an investor and it's a worse investment, do you want to make less on that investment or more on that investment? In order for you to take the risk, do you want to make less or more? If you're taking a risk, you want an equal amount of earnings. You want to make more when there is more risk. When there is more risk, you want a higher yield. When the bond investor gets a higher yield, you get a higher mortgage rate, car rate, what's a credit cone? Credit card rate. Your ice cream cones might be more expensive too. We haven't checked that one. I don't know if the Federal Reserve's got a graph on ice cream cones or ice cream, but we should look into that. They go up. So what the Federal Reserve will do is they will rate drop the heck out of the Fed rate. We saw it go all the way to 0 post-COVID, but we have to understand the full system, Reflex. They will not just drop rates a significant amount if one of these things were to happen. When one of these things inevitably happens, they'll also partner it up with one of their best friends, their mystery mousecatool. It's number 11 on our Doom Dozen. What do you think it is? Think about it. What do you think before we reveal what's going on here? Is that Will Smith? What's Will Smith doing out here? Your government and the Federal Reserve the working class. That's Will Smith smacking Chris Tucker. Will Smith is the government and the Federal Reserve, and we're Chris Tucker. He took it like a champ, though. So at least we're taking it like a champ. Occupy Wall Street. You may be a little too young to remember, but Occupy Wall Street, 2008 through 9, was when we found out they were going to bail out the banks. Was it Chris Rock? That's Chris Tucker. No? It's Chris Rock. Dang it. Dang it. Dang it. All right. That's the end of the show, guys. Sorry. We got to cut it off. Occupy Wall Street was when we found out they were bailing out the banks while families were getting foreclosures. We band together, non-politically, to occupy the streets of Wall Street to show them we did not want this to happen. And you know what they did? You know what they did? They were literally, you can look up this video. Sean, maybe try to look it up real fast. I know we have a time crunch. I don't want to go too far. Can you look up the video of Wall Street toasting champagne during Occupy Wall Street? Literally toasting champagne. While we as a people are screaming that we do not want this for very valid financial reasons. Can you find that? Does it come up real quick? Maybe it's even an image. Found it? Easy. Thanks, Reddit. Let's watch this video real quick if you haven't seen it. This was the last time that we as a people got together to say, billionaires, we don't want this. Let's see what happened. Just drinking, watching, in their nice buttoned-up Gucci suit, just watching these plebes run around with their signs. Like, what do we do? Look at her. She hates it. Look at her. This is what the billionaires think about you, by the way. This is how bankers feel about you. They do not care about you. They do not care about you. And that's why the next phase, number 11, is going to be so big. Because it's only going to benefit them. He who is closest to the money printer reaps the rewards. That's actually an economic theory by Richard Cantillon from the early 1700s. Look it up, the Cantillon effect. What's number 11? Money print. Now, I want to be clear. There's two different types of money printing. We have bailouts and we have QE. Bailouts come from Congress. This is legislative, runs through the Treasury. These are stimulus packages. The second is QE. This is run by our central bank. This is when we create new money on a digital magic money computer and say, hey, we found new money on this computer. Let's go buy bonds with it. And that's what they do. And it suppresses the bond market with artificial demand so that rates go down. But simultaneously, trillions of dollars enter the economy. This is called monetary base expansion. Monetary base expansion is the beginning block to all inflation. When there is more dollars in circulation without a higher number of people to utilize it, this is going to automatically weaken the dollar. Bailouts are what happened right before Occupy Wall Street, where we had the big bank bailout. This was called, if you want to look it up, TARP. The big bank bailout was called TARP. It was originally $700 billion. It ended up only going to $400 billion. But I want you to ask yourself, where do you think that money went to help the regular everyday person? Anybody? Wait, you guys think that none of this money went to help the normal everyday person? You think it only went into the top line bank accounts of 11 major banks, of which 10 of which were invested heavily into by BlackRock, and BlackRock was the one that advised them that they should do this? That's very interesting. It's very interesting. This is the second stage. Let's go to this article real quick. We are walking into a world where, oh, wait, that's not it. Who's this guy? Wait, who's this guy? You know what? I'm going to lead into this guy. This man is Rick Ryder. This is the wrong article. We're going to run with it. It's my fault, by the way. I put these articles together. Don't blame anybody else but me. My fault. I'll take it. Rick Ryder is the current chief investment officer at BlackRock. What's he up to these days? Well, he's currently running to be the chair of the Federal Reserve. Huh. The world leader in asset holdings, BlackRock, now at 13 trillion. If you watched episode 34, we did a little ceremony for them with some candles. Is now going to possibly get the reins to our free market? When I tell you only banks benefit from money printing and politicians and asset holders benefit from inflation, I'm trying to be as real as I can with this. Inflation only benefits bankers, billionaires, and asset holders. This is why everybody from 2020 on has different views of this economy. People that own a home, have a stock market account, have a retirement account between the two of them, don't have kids going to childcare, don't have student loan debt because they're 50, have a completely different outlook on today's economy than somebody who's starting to raise a young family, needs to get a car to get things started, need to get their first phones for their home, need to get rolling, are seeing a completely different economy. Why? Because they're not asset holders. If we print money, assets will inflate. Quantitative easing is going to happen. Clip it. Quantitative easing within the next 6 to 8 months is going to happen. Why? Because the bond market's out of control. And if we don't print money soon, we're going to go into a serious credit crunch. I think the credit crunch could forelead it. Could be our reaction, our reflex, as we've named it. But to be frank with you, it's going to happen. There's even already a plan out there. You can look it up. It got leaked in April of this year. That we're even thinking of bailing out private equity. Bailing out private equity. That is the BlackRocks and the Blackstones and all of them. Bailing them out. They need it. They really need it. God forbid their $1 trillion net worth went down to $1 billion. We can't have them being poor. We just cannot have that. Another $1 billion to Israel. Okay. Let's move on to the last of our dozen. This is where we start really speculating. This crash is gonna be different. Because when we drop rates insanely, it's more than likely to cause immense inflation. When, as a reaction to the cracks, we simultaneously print money alongside that rate drop, assets are going to get squeezed obnoxiously. Point in case, COVID. What happens when rates went to zero and we printed money? What happened to all the assets? Okay. Let me ask you this. Is there another country out there that might be licking their chops as they grow in their energy sources, in their education fields, in their own development economically and structurally, industrially? Is there any other country that might just be like, maybe we should just wait this out? We don't got to do nothing crazy. We don't got to launch a war. We don't have to do anything. We can just sit and wait. What's number 12, Sean? A power shift. We're going to end this by watching a video together. I'm going to pull the TV into the classroom. We're going to watch a video together. YouTube might hate the fact that we're going to play 5 minutes worth of another YouTube video, but if Ray Dalio says he wants his money, I will give it to him. All the monetization is his. Your 87 cents, all yours. That was Ray saying it's okay with it. He's fine with it. That was him talking. So Ray is approved. So we're going to play this video. This is called The Changing World Order. It is a book. It also has a much longer version of the very video we're about to play you that I highly advise going to watch. At the end of this series, we are going to put all sources that we walk through, all articles, all graphs, all videos in a document for you to be able to look through, as well as the Canva document. So all of this is going to be available to you. But I want you to go watch this video, the longer version. We're going to watch the shorter version right now. I want to be clear about what I'm about to say. We're exploring the possibility of an alternative system, de-dollarization, the rise of new systems. Blockchaining assets is going to happen. It's going to happen. We're going to digitize all assets. Blockchaining, Bitcoining, whatever we want to do is going to happen. It's just a matter of how. The dollar has been the reserve currency since 1944. We had a blip on the radar where we had to shift things up and get rid of the dollar to keep that up in 1971. 1974, we needed a new way to back the dollar. We brought in the petrodollar. And all the way up until today, we have remained the world's leader. Do you think there are any other countries out there that would like to be the world leader? Do you think that other countries are cool with just being second, cool with being third, fourth? Think they're cool with that? Do you think maybe they want to be number one? Maybe they think they could do things better? If you look at BRICS, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South America. They got together back in 2009, said, you know what? We're going to make a coalition that within the next 20 to 30 years, we're going to de-dollarize the world. We're getting the petrodollar out of here. We're going to gold back our own currency. And it's going to happen. Did I not say South Africa? What did I say? Oh, did I say South America? My apologies. South Africa. Yes. South America is not in. That's a whole continent. Yes. South America is a continent. My apologies. Even though Brazil is in there now. I want to watch this video by Ray Dalio. And I want to be clear. If we have the cracks that we've talked about in phase 3 of the fallout, if we continue to have market misdirection and gaslighting that is making the American population feel at odds as to what's actually going on in our economy, if we continue to see the normal everyday household get squeezed from jobs, from money, everywhere around them getting more expensive, we're going to see the crack. Could be the bank, could be the stock market, could be something even bigger. But what is for sure are 3 things. 1, we're going to drop rates insanely, create more credit. Number 2, we're going to print money. We're going to stimulate our economy. And number 3, it's going to be the perfect opportunity for another country to take control of the world reserve. Let's watch this video.
I studied the 10 most powerful empires over the last 500 years and the last 3 reserve currencies. It took me through the rise and decline of the Dutch Empire and the guilder, the British Empire and the pound, the rise and early decline in the United States Empire and the dollar, and the decline and rise of the Chinese Empire and its currencies, as well as the rise and decline of the Spanish, German, French, Indian, Japanese, Russian, and Ottoman empires, along with their significant conflicts, as measured in this chart. To understand China's patterns better, I also studied the rise and fall of Chinese dynasties and their monies back to the year 600. Because looking at all these measures at once can be confusing, I'll focus on the 4 most important ones: the Dutch, British, US, and Chinese. You'll quickly notice the pattern. Now let's simplify the form a bit. As you can see, they transpired in overlapping cycles that lasted about 250 years, with 10 to 20-year transition periods between them. Typically, these transitions have been periods of great conflict because leading powers don't decline without a fight. So how am I measuring an empire's power? In this study, I used 8 metrics. Each country's measure of total power is derived by averaging them together. They are education, inventiveness and technology development, competitiveness in global markets, economic output, share of world trade, military strength, the power of their financial center for capital markets, and the strength of their currency as a reserve currency. Because these powers are measurable, we can see how strong each country is now, was in the past, and whether they're rising or declining. By examining the sequences from many countries, we can see how a typical cycle transpires. And because the wiggles can be confusing, we can simplify it a bit to focus on the pattern of cause-effect relationships that drive the rise and decline of a typical empire. As you can see, better education typically leads to increased innovation and technology development, and with a lag, the establishment of the currency as a reserve currency. You can also see that these forces then declined in a similar order, reinforcing each other's decline. Let's now look at the typical sequence of events going on inside a country that produces these rises and declines. In a nutshell, the big cycle typically begins after a major conflict, often a war, establishes the new leading power and the new world order. Because no one wants to challenge this power, a period of peace and prosperity typically follows. As people get used to this peace and prosperity, they increasingly bet on it continuing. They borrow money to do that, which eventually leads to a financial bubble. The empire's share of trade grows, and when most transactions are conducted in its currency, it becomes a reserve currency, which leads to even more borrowing. At the same time, this increased prosperity distributes wealth unevenly, so the wealth gap typically grows between the rich haves and the poor have-nots. Eventually, the financial bubble bursts, which leads to the printing of money, and increased internal conflict between the rich and the poor, which leads to some form of revolution to redistribute wealth. This can happen peacefully or as a civil war. While the empire struggles with this internal conflict, its power diminishes relative to external rival powers on the rise. When a new rising power gets strong enough to compete with the dominant power that is having domestic breakdowns, external conflicts, most typically wars, take place. Out of these internal and external wars come new winners and losers. Then the winners get together to create the new world order, and the cycle begins again.
And that's where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting to the point where we're seeing the haves grow much larger than the have-nots. We're seeing the economy get to the point of where things are going to crack. And as the Chinese would put it, says we're coming for that ass in Chinese. That's what they're waiting on, guys. They're coming for us. I'm not sure. I hope someone speaks Mandarin can confirm that's what that said. I hope that's what that said. I hope that's what that actually said. I hope it didn't say something crazy. We don't know. I don't speak Mandarin. That's what Google said. That's what it is in Mandarin. We're at that phase, guys. 250 years is the normal length of an empire. 1776. You want to know how many years ago that was? It's 249 years ago. We're walking into a place where we need shelter. That's where I want to offer that. Next episode, Friday, we're going to be walking through the 4 points of shelter, and I want to show them to you right now. The 4 shelter points that you can take on financially, physically, familially, all the way down to your brain. Let's zoom in on that first graphic. So this is your shelter. You got donkey. That's you. You're about to make some meat on the fire. Who's that over the fire? Oh, it's Larry Fink. We love him. Yep, he's getting burned. It's not a threat. Don't sue me. What's the first shelter point that we're going to go over next episode? Let's remove our Shrek. Oh, Jenga. Looks like insurance. Jenga insurance. Okay. All right. What's going to be the next shelter point? Soccer? Is that who's that? Benzema? Benzema scored a goal? Okay. Maybe we'll get more into that next episode. We'll see what that means. The Bears, the Chicago Bears, grilling? Were they pre-gaming? Okay. And the last one. This is probably good. How do we make money? Oh. What's this? Okay, a lake and a woman meditating. All right. As you can clearly see, we have a very laid out, detailed financial and life game plan that can give you shelter if and when these things come to fruition. I did not add learn Mandarin to it, though. I think that we might have to. I need to, so I can properly say we're coming for that ass in Mandarin. I will have that ready by next episode. We're going to start with that. These have been our 4 fallout phases. Let's review them one more time as we finish out. We have phase number 1 of our graphic, and that is the misdirection, the gaslighting. The next that we will see is a continued household squeeze. The job market will continue to stay rough, especially for the white-collar entry-level economy, Gen Z economy, post-college economy. And cost of everything within the home will continue to reap their ugly heads around our entire country. And the normal consumer is going to keep getting squeezed to the point where we may finally see the crack. The creeper is going to crawl around the corner and he's going to go, shh, that little sound. You know, shh. What's the sound, Sean? Can you make the sound? Yeah, that was a little bit of that. That's what we're hearing. I heard a little around the corner and I'm looking around. Where's the creeper? And then there's 17. I'm like, oh shit. I can't take it when Joe in the background's like trying not to laugh hard because he doesn't want to be rude. But
I don't know why that made me think of
the system's
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, Always Sunny. I've never watched that, Always Sunny. The last phase would be the systematic snap. The systematic snap. And there's so many different things that we could cover there. We could talk about the fact that Russia's come out and said, we think the U.S. is going to put all the crypto or all their debt on crypto and exchange it and insider trade it. Maybe. It could be something completely sovereign. We could wipe out our debt in some way, shape, or form. Or we could just continue to draw the debt higher. Why not? More debt. And it's walked us into what we call our doom dozen, which is where we are sitting today in the first half of that. And we'll see if the second half unfolds. If and when it does, I want you financially protected. And that's where next episode, we'll finalize our series on the fractures in our economy with the shelter. We've covered the fault lines. We've walked through the fallout. Next episode, we'll cover the shelter. Thank you for tuning in. Episode number 37 of The Zach Val Show.